What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 39. My name is Zach Graham, your host here on the North End Podcast, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. It's Ian Michaud, a.k.a. E, a.k.a. LaE James, a.k.a. Sebastian Drew Easy, a.k.a. Eastradamus, a.k.a. Pap E. O'Daniel, a.k.a. Chili Willy, a.k.a. Eon Stonkel. Another away match that we did not view together, and a different result this time. Certainly a letdown on Saturday against Houston, but it's a new day, Sunday evening here, beautiful Austin, Texas. How are you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling pretty well. I mean, obviously a tough game, tough pill to swallow, but every now and then you gotta take your medicine. So that's where I'm at. Obviously excited to talk about our favorite team and, hash into some things, dive into some things that is pressing on our minds, on the fan base's minds, obviously probably on the mind of the players, our team overall. So, time for a little reflection, but primed, ready to go.
I love to hear it because, it's tough after games like these to, whether you're doing a podcast or not, whether you're a player, a fan, or anything in between, it can always be tough the next day to pick yourself back up, whether you're getting back after it at practice or a recovery training session, or sitting on the couch like, kind of doofus like you and I. We'll talk through all of the fallout from the 2-0 loss at Houston, talk a little bit about what transpired in MLS in match day 4, because it was a very exciting Saturday night, despite, our own fandom, or the letdown for our own fandom, I guess I should say. And maybe we'll talk, kind of some perspective, both positive and negative. I think we can kind of attack from both angles. But excited to get into it here on Sunday, or as excited as we can be, right? Picking ourselves up off the mat, talking about the match against Houston yesterday. And we'll start, as always, with the lineup. Couple changes as we expected. Or I should say changes were expected. We didn't hit all of them in terms of our lineup predictions from last Wednesday. But most of it, we were right on. We kind of saw the same back line there. Although Johnny G was on the right, Zahn was on the left. So, same that we have seen over the last few league games. I thought we were maybe going to see Zahn rotated out. Was not the case, although he did come off later in the match. We did see Maxi up top, as expected, like we wanted. Joining Seba, Rigoni, and Diego back in the 11. And then Johan Valencia in there for Owen Wolf. Little rotation. I think you called for that one. So kind of a mismatch of like all the ideas we had on Wednesday kind of thrown together in something that was not exactly what we had predicted. But were there any surprises for you in that starting 11? And then on the bench as well, we continued to see no true center back off the bench. So still no Kip, no Amro Tarek. Of course, Jassy Zardes was shifted to the bench in favor of Maxi Urruti. So the double striker look off the bench was still available. Will Bruin there. Rodney Redis continues to be in the team alongside Wolf, Jimenez, Finley, Lundqvist, and Nick Lima. What were your thoughts on the lineup?
Pretty much what I expected. Maybe Lima in there, Zani rotated out, Johnny on the left. But other than that, pretty much what I expected. Valencia in. I didn't know if he would be for Dani or Owen. Turns out it was for Owen. We definitely need to talk about that pairing with those two a little later on. But, yeah, like I said, not too shocked. We knew we were going to have some heavy rotation here, given the stretch of games that we've had as of late. And, it just wasn't a lineup that got the job done for us.
Houston side of things, obviously, Ache in there. He had a nice game. Ivan Franco, maybe the know if we can crown him the hair champion of MLS, but certainly notable.
Yeah, they got two guys
out there. Yeah. I mean, Carrasquilla, we know about him, right? Mm-hmm. And so Franco just turning up the hairstyle there for the Dynamo. Bassi getting his first MLS start up top in place of Sebas Ferreira. Let's get into it here, though, because while I think this game as a whole was, for lack of a better term, somewhat boring, especially compared to some of the other matches we saw in MLS yesterday, there was still a lot to go through. And I think starting second minute, a little bit shaky. I thought a little bit shaky on the night as a whole, the pairing of Leo and Alex Ring, in particular with their passing. Yep. Not so much with their defense, which I guess is probably the more important factor there. But second minute, Leo taps it over to Ring, I think over Bassi up top. And then Ring kind of loses the ball on a mishit pass, and Bassi kind of picks it up. He's off to the races. Like, luckily, he kind of ducks out to the left, trying to create an angle for himself, and his shot was kind of wild, like went way into the stands. But it wasn't the best thing to see in the first 2 minutes that our guys are having trouble at the back there. Because if we've heard a lot over the last week about people saying, I'm getting 2021 vibes, that's certainly not the way to dissuade those messages from coming out. So any takeaways from you there? I guess as a whole, we'll talk about, obviously Leo almost gave up a Kip Keller-esque back pass near the end of the game. Did you notice that kind of shakiness from those two?
Yeah, I would say that was the worst game that those two have had together in this young season thus far. Yep. Definitely on the back foot, sloppy with the ball. The 2021 vibes are not vibes we ever want to have again. No. So let's keep those in check. But yeah, a shaky start. Bassi proved to be a bit of a menace for us, and I thought he played well. He had a good showing for that Houston side. But yeah, a shaky pass, and then after that, really, we're knocking on the door right away. Yeah. Which was encouraging, but like you said, overall the start pretty tame, especially for this kind of game. And yeah, it was not a good way to instill confidence that this game was going to end up well right off the bat.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here because this was a little later on in the first 10 minutes that, not to pick on Leo, because again, like you look at his game as a whole, he was still one of, if not our best player in the outfield there. He's still extremely solid. But I think like it was just the shakiest that the pairing has looked together. Yeah. And I think Leo's worst game so far, which is a good thing. If this is his bottom so far, he was still just fine. But yeah, the early miscommunications between him and Stuver in net, there was like two plays right in a row where I think it's good that Leo's just being safe and like a little bit overly cautious. But I thought there was a little bit of a communication breakdown between him and Stuver where like twice in a row, Stuver could have got to the ball and he wasn't able to. And to the Houston fans' credit, man, that was the loudest I've ever heard them. And I know it still wasn't, it didn't look like it was quite a packed house, but you could at least hear them at times over the Austin fans who you could also hear. So the fact that they're working in that supporters end there in the Houston stadium, maybe that noise did cause those miscommunications, but that was just kind of another point. The first 10 minutes, those were really the only two negatives that I had, is that one mishit pass in the second minute, and then just kind of a little bit of shakiness between Leo and the keeper. For
sure. I mean, they're home opener, so if they're ever going to have,
good point,
a lot of support and a lot of juice, it's going to be a home opener versus us.
Yeah, for sure.
They very
double
much
whammy.
Hate. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I still heard plenty of Verde's chants on the stream the entire game. So shout out to the supporters who were at the match there in hostile territory. But yeah, again, those are the only two kind of mistakes, shaky plays that take place. And man, we had some chances. Let's get into them.
Fourth minute, Austin's press, which seemed like after this play, they just kind of called it off. The press causes a turnover, starts a 4-on-3. Like Valencia kind of gets onto the loose ball. His outlet to Driussi starts the break 4-on-3. Driussi's got Diego to his left. He's got Maxi and Rigoni on his right and tries to slip the pass in between two defenders for Diego. And I know we'll talk about this a little bit throughout the podcast. Diego not able to get around those two defenders. And even if he was, the pass itself, I think, didn't have enough juice on it to really get through that back line. But like you said, Austin getting at least some attacking chances early, even if they weren't necessarily on target.
Yeah.
9th minute. I think this was really where I started to notice, especially on the rewatch, that the press is not on anymore. And maybe it's not even anymore. Maybe those first 3, 5, 6 minutes, however long it was, where it seemed like we were playing more of our typical style, especially with Maxi in there, you would think that we're going to be instituting that press. Clearly not. Like this was a clear change in tactics defensively from the coaching staff to sit back more and we're picking up the soccer terms here, sitting in a mid block there, inviting Houston to, pass around the back. We'll sit back and rest some, our somewhat tired legs here. As a fan, I was disappointed by that particular change because especially with Maxi in there, that's one of the things that at least you and I appreciate about his game and know that he brings to the table above any of our other options at that position. Is his defensive work rate, how quick he is, his stamina. And so him not really being able to showcase that tactically for us, it felt a little off to me. 11th minute, Gallagher gets down the right side. Rigoni makes a run that Tate Schmidt kind of cuts off. But I was impressed with both Gallagher and Rigoni's ability to have patience and readjust, and Rigoni's understanding of that space that he ran into. I kind of thought it opened up a new angle for John to hit, and John recognized it right away. And then Rigoni was able to turn right inside and create a chance for himself. Unfortunately, he smacked the shot straight at Clark. I didn't think that was as big of a missed chance as I think the consensus was at the time, at least reading the Twitter feed as people are kind of live streaming their thoughts, so to speak. I was really pleased again with Rigoni. Again, I know I'm in the Rigoni camp. We say it every time almost, we are kind of the top two guys in Club Rigoni, but you look at the body of work, obviously no goals, no assists in the league yet. Did pick up his first assist against Violette. If you're just looking at these algorithms that these sites use for the player ratings, right? Rigoni, once again, our best player in the attack. And I think this play specifically was a really good example of the things he's bringing to the team because everybody sees the crosses. Everybody sees him setting up players, whether they finish or not.
Do they see?
Well, most people with their eyes open. But seeing his movement in space like this, that's something where I appreciated his readjustment watching it live, but going back and watching that full play develop on the rewatch today, it was great, man. And the connection that he's building with Gallagher is something that we have seen in previous games and we continue to see throughout this match.
I mean, yeah, I will say that I do think that this was a big missed chance.
Okay.
I thought if there was ever a time where he had the time to take another touch and get himself set up to have a better strike on the ball, that he had space and he had enough time to get another touch and then get a better shot, potentially moving towards the goal. Because I thought, honestly, this was just the microcosm that is Rigoni for this team right now, right? He has this great play. He finds a pocket in the defense. He opens up a great opportunity from something that really wasn't there. And he has this natural feel to go do that. And then Johnny delivers a nice pass to him. And then I'm not sure if he underestimated how open he was about to be.
Right.
That guy is on his back hip. he could have taken another dribble there and gotten that was about as timid a shot as you can get. And I said before on the last show that it does look like he's more comfortable shooting with that left foot.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw him try to put a little more pace on that. It wasn't a straight, instep shot.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was a really poor attempt. And I think that that's just been the microcosm with Rigoni here, is like he does things that you see and it's like, okay, yeah, this is a super impactful play for us. I just don't know if he has the killer instinct right now. It could be a confidence issue.
Sure.
But I thought this was a big miss.
I think it's fair enough. And it certainly wouldn't be the first time that I'm being softer on Rigoni than I should be as a fan. Because we are invested. So next minute, like you said, Austin continues to be on the front foot here, working in the Houston half. Maxey pings it out to Zahn on the left side. As soon as that ball gets to Zahn, you see Gallagher down at the bottom side of the broadcast angle, right side of the pitch, put his hand up immediately and just on a torrid pace towards that back post. And Zahn, to his credit, who I think has been up and down so far this season, even in like the vacuum of a single match, almost every single time he's had like 10 to 15 minutes here where he's really good and threatening on offense and putting in good balls, putting him into good areas. And then we see 15 to 20 minute stretches where a little bit too much juice on his cross. He's getting beat and like really highlighting his lack of elite speed. But I thought in this one, Zahn was fine, especially in the first half. And this was a great cross. Delivers it right to Johnny's boot. And he kind of bounces it into the pitch. A tough touch that ends up being lucky because it bounces right to Maxey's head. And he hits the post. So almost cashing that Urruti goal bet that we made prior to this game, but not to be. And I guess the only other thing I'll say about Maxey right here is, man, does he love to hit the post this season.
Loving that post this season.
Yeah.
Another kind of broken play there, much more broken than the Rigoni one, but one that is definitely a finishable shot. I mean, that is definitely a header that you can put past Steve Clark.
Yeah. Steve Clark, who has given up the most goals to Austin out of any keeper in MLS through 2 seasons.
And I thought, we had some pretty solid chances off of these crosses, which have been a thorn in the fans' side for the last week now. But we also, for perspective is coming later. We have to have perspective on the fact that the Violette game was an anomaly for this team. That's an outlier stat completely. The amount of crosses that came in that game were solely because of circumstance.
Yes.
Okay. So we're not just kicking the ball up the sideline and then just praying just praying it finds a head. Now, for a little criticism for coach, we know Maxey's not great in the air.
Yeah.
We know that that is a weak point in his game. So it is a little interesting that we didn't accentuate the best part of his game, which was the press.
Right.
And the fact that Houston is kind of playing this new style out of the back, trying to pass, and they're a little shaky too. And shit, it would have been fucking awesome if someone could just pass the ball to us one time and let us a little breakaway goal. But yeah, definitely a finishable header there. And I believe we get another a successful cross attempt coming up.
Yeah, 15th minute. What stood out to me here is the pass from Leo to Rigoni on the ground, breaks 2 lines, and he pushes it on to Gallagher on the right. And then his cross can't connect with Maxey. But just Leo again showcasing his passing ability and creating a chance seemingly out of thin air. And again, it wasn't our last chance of the half, but after these first 20 minutes, it really got to be more of a back and forth instead of Austin on the front foot.
Absolutely. And that was the type of ball that we were asking for after that first loss to St. Louis, was that that double line break to get it up to our offensive players, our attack, and then go off of that. So again, another good look, another nice development. And I mean, we've had a really hard time scoring this year. And I mean, it is what it is. We had tired legs. We were tired. And mentally we looked tired too. And maybe that's one of the reasons why we couldn't put them in the back of the net. Also, it's a fickle game, and sometimes they go down for it, sometimes they don't. I know, obviously, people coming from the NBA know it's a shooter's league. It's make or miss. If you're making shots, you look fucking really nice, man. You can be doing all kinds of great plays and beating people off the dribble and getting passes to people, but if we're not scoring, it's hard. So we're in a tough stretch right now.
It's only the type of analysis you can get here on the North End Pod. If we're not scoring, it's hard. I very much agree. 19th minute, though, Leo back in the play-by-play here, picking up a yellow. And this was for pulling down Bassey to stop a breakaway. And Leo, protested. It looked like he was protesting the foul call, which, it was very clear to me, not just a foul, but a yellow. I thought it was just a professional foul. You take your yellow and move on. But he wasn't happy with it. And that was very notable for what we'll talk about here in a second. But before that, 21st minute, another good ball over the top from Zahn to Driussi down on that left side. And that Driussi brought it down. Wasn't his cleanest touch there. It kind of gets a nice bounce that helps him split the defense. And then he finds Maxey down the middle of the box. He had come in on the left side. Driussi finds Maxey in the middle. Looks like he could have probably turned and shot it. We've seen Maxey make way tougher shots. But he slides it on to Rigoni, who's open. And then his touch with his right foot to kind of set him up. Because I think now we can, you and I at least, I think our conclusion is that right foot, weak foot, right? Even though he's ambidextrous,
I think shooting, yes. I think when it comes to shooting, he prefers shooting with the left.
So he takes that extra touch to try to set up the right, and it's just a bad touch, and it allows the defense to not just close down, but it kind of closes off any angle that he did have, and it goes right to Clark.
Maxey could have shot it. I believe he made the right pass. I think that was the right play for him to make there. I thought initially the ball from Seba was a little late. I thought that he should have delivered that ball sooner to Maxey. But Rigoni's got to make that, man. He's a DP. He's got to put that in the back of the net for us. And I think if you just inverse the situations where he had that earlier chance, and if he had taken the touch with another touch with that one and then gotten it off, I would have much more preferred it. And then this one off the one time. Sure. Because due to that ball, I think being late from Seba, the defense had a long enough time where that ball went because Maxey's first touch is pushing him towards the right. Right. And I just thought that they gave him enough time, and it's a tough one.
I mean, I can only imagine, we saw Josh last week talk about wanting Rigoni to get the goal for his own mental state. And so clearly they have communicated, or Josh can tell that it's weighing on Rigoni. You don't have to be probably in that locker room to accurately guess that, but the longer it goes, man, obviously the shouts for why is this guy a DP, this and that, are going to continue to rise. And it's tough to say anything against that. We can still maintain that we think he is a good player, one of our better players so far this year. But that also doesn't mean that we agree he's performing up to a DP standard. And at the same time, it's not his fault he's a DP. That's just a weird MLS roster rule. And anyways, 24th minute here, or go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, I totally agree with that. And then when you take into account, our other DP is playing out of position and, a position that he doesn't get opportunities to make an impact on the offensive side of the ball. It just kind of exacerbates itself.
24th minute. Johnny G I think this is a recycled cross, pings it back in. There's nobody there, and Clark is clearly going up to catch it, and Leo flies in looks at Clark before he even hits him, and collides with Clark in the air. Steve Clark rightfully livid after that, because not only was it, I'm not going to call that a dirty play, but it is an ill-advised play in soccer. You don't have to watch much soccer to know that, like, that's not something you really do. And then the way he came down, he kind of straddled the post almost, and his left knee like bent backwards, and like, I don't know, man. I'm really glad he didn't get hurt on that play. And I'm even more glad from my fan perspective that Leo, sitting on a yellow from 5 minutes ago, did that and did not get carded and thrown out of the game, because I don't know how I could possibly make an argument that he shouldn't have been carded there.
Yeah.
And if I'm a Houston fan, I'm so angry that he was not tossed, because I thought he deserved to get a red there.
Just a really reckless play. If not a red, I'm assuming you think maybe his second.
Yeah, yellow. Second yellow. Yes.
A reckless play. Totally not worth it. Like, he wasn't gonna score that.
No.
So yeah, I am with you there too, and a fortunate circumstance for him to not walk, be thrown off the pitch there. And
then what are we doing?
Yeah. Woo.
32nd minute. Kind of a nervy start to this possession. Weak Valencia pass, and pressure from Houston. Kind of, I don't know, 3 or 4 passes where it was like starting to tense up. And then but Leo, once again, like a really soft pass over the top to break a line. It falls right to Rigoni. Like, these passes, I feel like at this point, if Leo is passing to somebody who's off screen, I know it's going to get there. Yeah. Like, this guy has long ball from game 1 against St. Louis. Obviously, Driussi did a lot of MVP type stuff to finish that one off. But I'm just so confident in Leo with the ball at his feet, even after the 85th minute thing or whatever, whenever that happened. But it falls to Rigoni. He pushes it upfield, finds Valencia in the middle, who swings it to the left side to Kolmanic. Kolmanic crosses it in. He finds Rigoni's head. He knocks it to Gallagher, and Gallagher's shot goes right at Clark. So again, like, we're frustrated as fans with all the crosses, especially after Violette. We've talked about that at length. But in this first 30, 35-ish minutes, there were no less than 3 crosses from Kolmanic that found, I can't say deadly chances because they didn't finish any of them, but very threatening chances and finding the mark. So, like, I don't know. It's just.
Yeah, we generated 3 really good attempts on some crosses there, and right to the keeper.
The next minute, another bad Houston turnover leaves Kolmanic with space in their half. Good, quick find to Urruti, who I just think in the moment, like, just kind of poor decision-making, couldn't decide if he was trying to hold it up, turn and shoot, pass it to one of his teammates that are diving in. Like, he ends up missing Driussi on his left, who I thought he could have got to first. Then Diego comes in on his right, and he puts the pass behind him. Yeah. So it was like, again, I thought Maxi had a fine game, but this was not his finest moment of the night, to be sure.
I mean, yeah, fine games were hard to come by for the crew here. Seba's worst game of the season?
Probably, yeah.
Right? I mean, maybe not. I would say worst would be this. If someone had to, like, just off the top of your head, what's the worst game he's had this year? I would probably go to this one, but definitely, like, the least impactful.
Yes.
It was never like, oh, yeah, here he goes. He's getting a good shot. He just created something fantastic. I don't know. I think definitely some frustration amongst the guys right now. I think you saw that with Leo too. He's played a lot of minutes over the last 2 weeks. Seba as well, obviously. And we just did not have, especially in this second half, we generated a lot of good looks here in this first, and second half, very, very flat. And, it's not too often where I get to go and get some confirmation bias right away. But the Valencia and Dani pairing did not look great. Valencia is fucking slow.
Yeah. I have that in the notes here coming up.
Really slow. And obviously he was dealing with some green card things and getting over here and stuff. And but wow, he looked, especially in comparison to the two Hair brothers there.
Yeah.
So, and what the game where Owen really had his best game of his career and his success was when he was taking offensive space and creating chances and looking really, dynamic in that area. And it played into how Dani likes to play, because Dani does have a bit of a more defensive mindset as well. I've seen that he's won the most 50-50 balls in the league right now.
Coming into match day 4, yeah.
Okay. So those two just kept overlapping. And Valencia was very conservative, and it just kind of left us in a spot where we're not in good position. We're not well spaced. Valencia is dragging behind the play. Dani didn't really know how to play with him as well as he does with Owen, and I thought that really hurt, given that they have Hector Herrera on the other side, who just an all-timer. Love the guy.
To Valencia's credit, though, dude. When he was in there, I thought that was the one thing that Valencia did extremely well, is limiting Herrera and his effectiveness. And you see right when he gets subbed off later in the second half, right? That's when Ache really picked his game up.
Yeah, the physicality-wise, Valencia could handle Hector's body.
Yeah.
But other than that, he wasn't really giving us much.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, too, because, you mentioned the dynamic between Dani and Owen. Obviously, we've talked about that at length as well to start the season, but I wonder if we see this pairing again. It might be next week, because we're going to be shorthanded again. If we see Dani go back to a role that pushes him further up the field, because that's not Valencia's game. And I know with the tactical change, especially with Julio out, Dani has been kind of stuck in the defensive half of the field there, helping out with that back line. But if we do have Valencia next to him, can we maybe push Dani up and improve the attack like that? Because Wolf's absence last night, I think, was notable on the offensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. And if it comes down to it, I'd want to see the Jeffel pairing.
Yeah. I saw people calling for him too.
I want to see Jeffel with Dani, or Jeffel with Owen.
Yeah. Well, we might see Jeffel next week. We'll see. 35th minute, another good Austin buildup. Finds Diego on the left, takes 2 touches towards the middle, fires a shot just directly into the defender that's in front of him, and turned into a Houston fast break that highlighted the lack of speed that Valencia possesses. To his credit, I don't think either of us would confuse him for the fastest straight line guy, especially full field sprint like this was, because of the nature of the break that was created on Diego's shot attempt. I also thought Diego could have, he's shooting that ball from a spot we've seen him score multiple goals. But I also thought that it was kind of I haven't gotten mine yet this half. Let me get a shot.
Yeah.
And we could have gotten something better in the moment. 42nd minute, Ring fouls Herrera. Herrera himself takes the free kick. It's about 10 yards outside the box. Fantastic shot with a ton of pace, but it's right at Stuver, and he's able to touch it over the net. But it's when kind of the first time you really saw that quality from Herrera. And you see it a lot the rest of the game. 2nd minute of stoppage time here. Coco Carrasquilla turns into the midfield and then makes a great pass to find Baird on the run down the right side. Stuver gets kind of caught out near the edge of the box, and another nervy moment, but he's able to poke it out far enough where he can recover, and no goal came of it. But just another nervy moment in the back, kind of sandwiching the half with miscommunication with Leo, mishit pass by Ring, and then now at the end of the half, now Stuver, had to get in on the action there. So into the second half here, 47th minute, Herrera gets into the box on the left side. This is where the first moment where I thought he really got the best of Johan. Takes it right to the end line and cuts it back instead of crossing it, and Valencia just goes flying out of the picture. And then smashes a shot at Stuver, and I just think professional save there. Right at you, 100 miles an hour, got it out.
Who was trying to save his own life?
Yeah.
You get hit with that shit.
You can get knocked out.
That would have hurt. Yeah, no, he made Valencia look really stupid there.
52nd minute, Ivan Franco, kind of a half bike attempt off a corner. I thought it was
boy was up
that. the hair talk aside, I think he's a really promising young player for them.
Mhm.
And it doesn't make me feel good that there's multiple Houston players that I'm saying about that last night, as I think that, like, look, we can talk about this in perspective too, the perspective segment we want to do. Just because they didn't have any points through their first 2 matches does not make them a bottom of the table team. Like, yes, they were bad last year and they haven't shown flashes this year, but we don't know yet who exactly is like the bottom tier of either conference or the league as a whole. Like, through 2 games, they had a bye. They've only played 2. Like, Minnesota's sitting on 7 points through 3 games with no Emmanuel Reynoso. Do we think that they're for real? I don't. So, like,
yeah, St. Louis at the top of the table.
Yeah. I just don't think that. I just don't think the way some people. What's that?
It's a young season.
It's a young season. It's a long season. I just don't think the way some of the fans were approaching Houston as like this is like a guaranteed win. Like, we picked the wins. We thought we should have won, but like, I also don't think we picked Houston. I think 9th in our preseason predictions. Like, that's a wild card spot, right? Like, I think they're going to be better. We think they're going to be better. They certainly showed it last night.
Yeah. I mean, look, like, for those who have played sports, you can run into some trap games. And this, obviously in hindsight, saying now it's a trap game is a little right, cheap for sure. Because obviously we said we both predicted the win, although newsflash for everyone, unless we go on like a 48 game losing streak and I have to pick us to lose to break the streak, I'm predicting Austin FC wins every time. But look at it, just look at this scenario circumstance. Home opener for this team, they only played 1 game to our 4 over the last 2 weeks. We're coming off a very disappointing, very exhaustive,
emotionally beat down are these guys, right?
Yes. Loss at expulsion from CONCACAF. And it's a rivalry game. We were up 4-1 going into this. So, we've been beating their ass and they wanted us for sure. And look, man, we had the chances in the first half. Would have been great to get on the board and this whole game changes, but we go into the second half and flat.
52nd minute, Diego yellow card. 53rd minute, Carrasquilla smacks a shot right at Stuver, parries it away. Stuver not going to have a great match rating here because he did let in 2 goals, one of them being a penalty. But I thought he was fine. I didn't think Stuver had a bad night by any means. Diego does come out 3 minutes later in favor of Ethan Finley. And let's just talk about this. Nights. Yeah, Diego was not good. You mentioned Driussi having his worst game of the season. The match ratings back that up. Out of the 10 outfield players, Driussi was the second lowest at a 6.1, only second to Diego's 6. And I'm going to say this. And, of course, this is in the top 0.01% of human elite athlete tier. Diego looks a little big.
Yeah.
He looks a little pudgy. And we've heard whispers of him missing or like skipping the voluntary winter team workouts that they had back in December or whenever before preseason. And that could certainly be a contract thing.
Yeah.
He got a new contract.
Yeah.
And that also could have nothing to do with his current fitness. But I know that we are not the only ones that noticed he did not look like it. He doesn't look like he's in the same shape that he has been as he's revived it. Maybe not revived. Maybe that's a strong word, but he has been so good since he's been to Austin. He is the fan favorite, even over a guy who's an MVP candidate. And so, like, don't get it twisted. We're not saying anything bad about Diego, just observing that he has not had a good start to the season. We give all these other guys crap for not scoring, not assisting, doing this, doing that, and nobody wants to say a bad thing about Diego. Josh Wolf certainly did in the post game last night. And again, I'm not saying he's saying a bad thing about Diego. I think he's holding one of his best players who he as a coach needs to have success with this team. He's trying to hold him accountable. And to Diego's credit, like, he he was like, the coach thinks the performances need to be better, then I need to be better. And I don't know what else we want either guy to say. Maybe Josh cannot bring up that he just got a contract extension. But like outside of that, it's also just a fact. It's not like Josh is breaking any news. And I do think that these guys have been through enough together over the last 2+ years where making comments like that in the media is just kind of a way that they communicate. Like Josh has called players out before, and I'm not talking about Johan Romanya's fitness after he's already gone, stuff like that. Like he did that in 2021. He did it last year when we were going through tough times, and we all understand the importance that that Diego has to this team. We don't do anything without Diego. We've got a couple guys that are like that. And so I think it showed the urgency with which the coaching staff is looking at the situation. If we can't count on Diego, we're in trouble. Absolutely. And so like that, to me, like the visual of it, kind of thinking back after the match, like, man, Diego really hasn't done much this season. I don't know, man. Like, obviously, overall, I am not concerned about the results from the league year, right? Everybody gets into the playoffs, essentially. We're still sitting in 6th, like a point off second or 2 point, whatever it is. But I'm worried about Diego, at least as things stand right now. I'm a little bit worried because he's the guy, he's the Iron Man. Played in the most games out of any outfield player in Austin FC history. This is the guy that plays 90 minutes, game in and game out. And we were talking about, okay, we think now Diego's going to be full go here on Saturday because he played 90 in the DR. He rotated the next 2 games, and now we're back. And he ain't back.
No. The thing I'll say the positive part about it first. Diego's response was great.
Yes.
And I am confident that Diego will respond as a professional of his caliber should.
Yeah.
To the people who took coaches' comments personal to themselves, I'm very glad that Diego is a professional who understands coach speak and that he needs to play better.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not encouraging anyone to be as just flat out disrespectful as they've been to Giassi and Rigoni, but keep the same energy because now this team that we've been begging for with Diego and Urruti up front has 0 goals versus Violette and 0 goals versus Houston here. So, please don't keep the same energy with all the negativity that is swirling around all of our players, but we can hold people accountable.
Yeah. We said that on the last episode, right?
Yes. And I have full faith in Diego's ability to do that. I do think maybe the contract thing by Josh, not needed.
Sure.
Not needed in that context, especially after the game. Obviously, he's disappointed as well. I'm referencing Diego. But yeah, man, he's got to play better. He has to play better because guess what? Yes, he is our starter. He's the starter. He's one of our most dynamic players. He's going to be in the fucking games. He has to be in the games. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, we are in trouble. So I hope he steps up. I know he will. I feel confident in that. And he deserved to be subbed off at this point.
I agree. 62nd minute, Ivan Franco gets a one-on-one chance against Dani on the right side. And I thought this was one of the lowlights for Zahn on the night because he just kind of backs down for 20 yards, lets Franco get into the box and get an angle. And luckily that shot just was kind of floated wide to the left. But I thought it showed some of the biggest hesitation from Komanich this year to actually step up and defend. Because what are you that scared of getting beat by this young cat that you're just going to let him back you down into the box? That retreat to me was not great.
I was bewildered. I just had no idea. I was like, all right, he's giving up space. All right, he's giving up more space. Okay, more space. Okay, this dude just going to shoot it.
Yeah,
he almost knuckled 6. Yeah, he almost knuckled one in there.
Yeah.
That was strange, and that was my signal that Zani needed to be taken out of the game.
And he was 3 minutes later, 65th minute. Lundqvist comes in for Kolmanic in the revenge spot back in Houston. Owen Wolf also comes in for Johan Valencia. 2 minutes later, Herrera takes a corner. That gets recycled back in. Bartlow heads it down into the outstretched arm of Adam Lundqvist. Gets reviewed, goes to VAR, rightfully called a PK and a yellow on Lundqvist. Just an unfortunate circumstance for him in his return. And then Bassi takes advantage with the PK goal. And Stuver, to his credit, man, gets a mid on it, just not able to keep it out. But like
trash kick.
Yeah.
That was it was a bad PK.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, is Lundqvist a sleeper agent for Houston? Now we got one for St. Louis and we got one for Houston, It could be.
Yeah.
No, super unfortunate is what it was.
Yes.
If you can't tell the heavy amounts of sarcasm I'm laying on that. Super unfortunate, right call. Stuver gets a mid on it. Wasn't a great strike, but they'd been knocking and we had been lackluster and we didn't put anything away, and that's what happens.
We'll rip through the end of this game here because not a ton of positives the rest of the way. Right after the PK, there's a string of Austin corners as they continue to push forward, trying to respond to that goal. And I thought Houston did a pretty solid job defensively against that 4 or 5 minute push. Consistently had 8 guys in the box, just defending really well. And I thought the quality of the Austin crosses, especially from that left side, just really diminished with Kolmanic out of there. 79th minute, Carrasquilla gets a yellow card for a foul on Dani, and Sebas Ferreira comes on for Ivan Franco. 80th minute. Dan, what's that?
I was confused with this play.
Which one? The yellow card?
Yes. Why was that not a play on?
Oh, when he stopped the break?
We had the fucking ball.
Yeah. I don't know.
We were going.
I don't know.
Sebas going up the left side of the field. We had the ball. I was like, why are we stopping the game right here? Because he was a foul on Dani, and I think it goes to, do you know who? Because Dani loses the ball, but we retained possession.
I thought it came to Owen, kind of still in the midfield, but on the right there.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Because we had the ball, and I was like, all right, well, let us go. So I was confused with that call. I don't know why we stopped play there.
It's interesting because even on the rewatch, I didn't have the same. I
rewatched it again before this, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We gave the ref so much praise for the RSL match that now we couldn't go through this one without at least raising a question. 84th minute, bad Lundqvist turnover creates a chance for Houston. Carrasquilla to Herrera from right to left. Herrera finds Ferreira. That's a sentence. And then Sebas Ferreira loses it, but then Herrera gets it back, fires another just deadly shot right at Stuver. It gets blocked. 85th minute, Zardes on for Urruti. Griffin Dorsey comes in for Bassi for Houston. Next minute, long Houston build up. Herrera gets into the box on the left. We aren't able to win it back when Carrasquilla loses it at the top of the box. And then Herrera, this was just all Hector Herrera. He comes in and scoops it back up after Carrasquilla loses it. He swings it to Dorsey, give and go, cuts right across the face of Rigoni. Dorsey gives it right back to him, taps it in the net. His first MLS goal. How many games has he played for Houston? Can you imagine if we had a guy on that level who hasn't scored a goal? Makes Rigoni seem kind of tame. But gets his first goal, 2-0. The game is over at this point. 88th minute, Leo flubs a back pass, leaving Sebas Ferreira alone against Stuver. Stuver somehow closes down, and Ferreira just rarely in on net by himself like that. Ring also hustled back and kind of ushered the ball out, ends up being a goal kick. But Leo almost making the highlight reels again for Austin for a negative reason. Not him again, but just us again.
It's a rite of passage at this point.
I was like, fuck, man, if he's going to do that, start Tarek and Kip together next game when he's gone. We've got nothing to lose at this point if everybody's doing that.
I do want to go back just quick to the Herrera goal.
Yeah.
This was the most embarrassing moment on the pitch last night.
Okay.
For me.
Sure.
Multiple 50-50 balls.
Mm-hmm.
There.
Sure.
We got 5 fucking guys standing around like they're playing little league soccer. Yeah. Like, ring is 2 people behind the guy who's guarding fucking the ball.
Yeah.
Looking.
Yeah.
Standing there. And then Rigoni's effort to stop that face cut from Ferreira, inexcusable. Inexcusable. That was right there. Was like we had already lost that game.
What effort?
Yeah, no, yeah.
He stood there.
F for effort. Yeah. No, it was really bad. And I was really embarrassed with that play in particular. We're just clumped up.
Yeah.
Like, look.
I'm glad you brought that up. Me and Jose were talking about that too. On that, like right where the Carrasquilla loses it, and then Ferreira darts through that whole group to get the ball back.
And it's just like it was a guy watching another dude hoping he would do something.
Yeah.
And then
after the goal, a bunch of people pointing at each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
No, that was the most embarrassing play for me last night. Just really inexcusable. And maybe could have been something that, was laid earlier with the poor communication in that back line. Yeah. And yeah, that was embarrassing. That was shitty to watch.
I'm glad you brought that back up because I'm trying to rush for time here, but definitely an important point on that play, the goal given up there. So I appreciate you. Second minute of stoppage time. Second minute of stoppage time. Danny Ferreira tweaks his left knee after Ferreira runs through him on a shot, or ran through his leg, I guess I should say. Like,
yeah,
bro, that is a foul in the NFL. How is that not a foul in MLS?
It's a foul.
Yeah. That's a foul in the one of the biggest contact sports in human history.
It's a foul,
but it's not a foul here. I don't get it, and I'm just glad. Like, man, the way Danny was like yelling, biting the grass, almost like it can be really tough sometimes to tell when a guy is selling it or when a guy is actually hurt. I think that leaned more towards the latter, but luckily it doesn't seem like it was anything serious. Yeah. It's just not that you don't see Danny selling calls like that very often. And he wasn't selling it like that. That looked like it hurt.
Indeed.
All in all, 15 shots to 13 in favor of Houston, 7-5 on target, also in favor of the Dynamo. XG from FOTMob, 1.83 for Houston, 0.96 for Austin, but 0.79 of penalty XG there from FOTMob. So if you take away the PK, this game, from the underlying numbers, right, the algorithms, the analytics, essentially even. And on the rewatch, I kind of agree with that. Like, this game was a lot closer than it felt. I'm not saying that Austin deserved to even get a point out of it, but I think it was more like Houston, who I know I gave them a little bit of praise earlier. Like, I don't think they're a spoon team this year. I also don't think they're great. So I think at best, and trying to put a positive spin on it here, it was 2 last night below average teams going at it, and one got the win and one didn't. And I think it was deserved. Tired legs or whatever you want to say. The game was certainly closer than, at least it felt to me, turning off the TV last night after that one. Any takes for you on the XG there?
I think that's fair. Like we said, we had our chances in the first half. I think we outplayed them in the first half, not handedly. But I thought we were the better side. And in the second half, we ran out of juice. And they were the better, more aggressive team in that half. And tired legs or not, home opener or not, you got to play who's in front of you. And we didn't play well enough to get 3 points.
Good thing about this season, it is a long and winding one. We have another match on Saturday. We'll preview that match against Colorado on Wednesday evening's episode. Going to fire some player names at you. Some of them we already talked about, but any quick takes about their performances last night or overall this season? We talked about Diego. Don't think we need to rehash that. Both of us believe that he's going to start showing out sooner rather than later. But certainly a little concern there. Rigoni, we talk about him all the damn time. He's been great lately. He's been great relative to what the team is doing. There has not been a game yet where it's like Rigoni was bad, where everything is, where the player ratings, the result of the match, the fans, there has not been a game yet where all of those factors are in agreement that Rigoni had a poor game. So I'm still pretty high on him.
I think that this was one of his worst performances this year. I think he had 2 chances to finish one, and I just can't say you play a good game when I can point to this on tape and a guy just walks by you and scores a fucking goal to brace it up and just really, shut the door on anything.
And that's where the player model algorithms, right, on all these sites, they don't pick that stuff up because Rigoni, 7.3 on FOTMob, by far the best of any attacking player, like we mentioned earlier, doesn't pick that up in the algorithm. Urruti and Zardes.
What's that?
I said Urruti and Zardes, but you want to keep talking Rigoni? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, we're not going to win a lot of games when Seba is a 6 on FOTMob. You tie into the fact that he didn't look good for him. Yeah. In the context of the game.
For sure.
So we're not going to win a lot of games like that. Urruti Zardes, Zardes not on the field enough for me to give him a very accurate,
of course,
assessment for his performance. Urruti, fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
He did nothing to sway me from the stance that Zardes should be the primary starter and Urruti is the rotating starter.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
He didn't. And he's missed by centimeters this year. But so is Gyasi.
And that's the thing is he hits the post a lot, but that counts just as much as Gyasi being offside. They don't count.
Yeah.
Both of them will come good sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
Or at least we got our fingers crossed, right? Johan Valencia.
I don't think he played poorly as an individual, but it's clear that we can't maximize him and Dani at the same time because they occupy the same space.
Yes.
They play very similarly on the defensive side of the ball. Valencia is very conservative. So I don't think he played poorly individually. A rating for the game, I'd probably give him a C.
Sure.
He was there. Nobody played particularly well. I can't point to anything where I was like, oh, that's great. Obviously, his defense on Ferreira early was impactful and we needed it. But yeah, just a very average, mundane kind of game for him as well.
Yeah, I think for me, that's a task that I want to see the coaches tackle going forward because we are going to see Valencia some this season. And to figure out that positioning, to your point, when he's out there with Dani, like you said, they were in the same spot last night. And we can't have that in the way that this team is trying to play right now. Last one here for you, Adam Lundqvist.
Tough game for him. He comes in the game, gives up the handball. He's instantly kind of mentally doesn't look like he's there.
Yeah.
An unfortunate night for him. He did not play well.
It's got to be jarring going back, really playing the biggest role we've seen him play yet in terms of minutes, outside of course, the game in the DR. And like you said, the handball, it all goes wrong as soon as he gets on the pitch.
Yeah, so, and that's hard to come back from, and he did not.
Yeah, poor performance, but certainly not to the level where I'm like, I don't want to see Adam Lundqvist again, right?
No, definitely not. And not even in the list of poor performances this year, not on the short one.
Last business day, the team played an intra-squad scrimmage this past weekend. Home opener this coming Friday. We'll preview that match on Wednesday. But the only thing I wanted to mention about Austin FC 2E is watching the photos from the inner squad. Them wearing the Las Voces kit and the Mint kit is something I did not think about, that they're just also going to wear our jerseys. And so, it makes sense. We're just going to wear the same jerseys. But it was cool to see those young guys wearing the kits just like the first team guys. So,
agreed.
Let's talk a little perspective here. Just got a couple things I jot down, just thoughts that I had today. Maybe trying to cope as a fan, but these are facts nonetheless. We're 12% of the way through the MLS season. 12%. In any league, any sport, when you're 12% of the way through a regular season, do you make any sort of sweeping statements about any team being a lock for a Super Bowl title or an NBA Finals run or a Stanley Cup champion? No. So I don't think we should overreact to anything that's happening right now. Sure, if we were sitting on 12 points right now, we'd be beating our chests. We'd be we'd be all over Twitter being as annoying as we possibly can be.
Mm-hmm.
But even if we were in that position, I'm pretty sure we would be having perspective the other way and saying, hey, we had kind of an easy start to the season schedule-wise. LAFC is right there. FC Dallas is right there. Seattle's right there. Like, we're not guaranteed to be in the number one spot. So, like, we're not guaranteed to be sixth either. Or people talking about Wolf better make the playoffs. Like, come on. Come on. 12%, 12% of the way through the season.
Look, man, nobody is going to get me to panic over this team. I don't care how loud or stupid you sound on Twitter. Like, again, we're 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
We've played one home game.
Yeah.
We've had a brutal run here.
Brutal
run. It's been tough. But you know what? I mean, you're not going to have a season without some sort of brutality mixed into it, and you got to be able to respond from it. And we have plenty of time to respond from it. And nobody on our team outside of probably Leo, Seba, and now Alex, you can kind of throw him in there as well, has played particularly well.
Sure.
Johnny. I'm sorry.
Johnny G. Yeah.
Definitely cannot leave Johnny
Maybe
out.
our best player so far.
Yeah, exactly. After 4 games, if I had told you Johnny G's our leading goal scorer and best player, what do you think our record would be?
Right.
So for sure, long season. I have total confidence in this team. I don't know. I mean, maybe we just have too many UT fans, football fans. Where if you lose your first 2 games out of 4, you're fucked. Yeah, but that's not this.
Yeah. And that's like 40% of a season.
Yeah, and this is not what we're doing.
Yeah.
So yes,
that is big. That is big Texas booster energy for sure.
Yeah. What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some more perspective for you, E. All the CCL teams were winless this match day. So again, maybe coping, but it's a fact. All the CCL teams struggled this weekend.
Pachuca got knocked out.
They did.
Pachuca lost to a Honduran team.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're burning everything to the ground.
Maybe. I don't know.
Coming up, I mean, the wolf out thing. Does anyone think that that's catchy?
I don't know, bro. I mean,
I've seen wolf out now and wolf ball.
Yeah, wolf ball. It's like although like we're playing pretty much a completely different style of tactics here, but we're still calling it wolf ball. So wolf ball is just anything that a Josh Wolf coach team does, I guess.
Yeah.
Julio Cascante continues to be out, of course. Is it the worst injury in club history? Because I think it is. That's the most impactful, lengthy injury we've had. Second is Matt Beasler, but we were already so far down in the table that year that I think this one, 8 minutes into the season, is the most impactful injury we've ever had. Like, shouts to Hector last year. Like, I understand that was a tough injury, and we missed him, of course. But, like, this is the most, like you said, there's going to be some brutality throughout the season as a fan. Like, right off the bat. And we have to keep that in mind that we have not, as a team, we said it before the season. Last year, our injury luck was top notch.
Absolutely.
And we're catching a dose of just that variance, right? It's going to regress back to the mean. And missing a guy like Julio is something that this club has not gone through before. And man, it could be worse. We could not have 6 points right now.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great point. We're dressing one center back.
Yep.
We're dressing one center back right now. And
who just got here.
Yeah, exactly. Who just got into the team. I think that's a great point. And I think not only from the standpoint of what Julio obviously brings as, depth and a positional upgrade at the center back position, man, his energy and his toughness and his mental fortitude would be very impactful right now for this team as we're kind of, making our way through the mud here and we're in the weeds a little bit. Because we're not where we want to be. Even if we can keep perspective right now, I think that you and I would both agree that We think that this team is better than this.
100%.
We thought we were going to have one of the most prolific scoring attacks in the league. Yep. And I still maintain that. I haven't changed my entire position because we're 2-2.
Right. I'm with you. And at least 6 points through 4 matches.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 51 point pace.
There's what, 4 teams ahead of us? They're all sitting at 7, besides St. Louis.
Turn into
LAFC,
the standings.
Seattle, Dallas,
Minnesota.
They all 4 teams with set 1 more point than us. And if you're Minnesota, shit, how crazy are those fans going right now? How ecstatic are those fans right now?
No Reynoso.
They're ahead of us.
It's their dream right now to have 7 points from their first 3 games without their best player.
I mean, talk about the dream. St. Louis is living the dream for sure. And they're 6 points ahead of us, right?
Well, and then like again, this is all hindsight now that we're a month into the season, but like the more St. Louis does well, the less bad that loss looks. And like we still should have won that game.
Especially considering we gave the game away.
Exactly. We were in the winning position, controlling the game until the back pass. The first back pass of many this season, apparently. Just to close out some perspective here. Portland Timbers, obviously a storied franchise in MLS. They have had 3 points or fewer 7 times now through 4 games in an MLS season. They're sitting on 3 points through 4 here in 2023. In 5 of those previous 6 occurrences, they made the playoffs, and they went to the MLS Cup 3 times out of those 6 times. So, like, just to try to illustrate, like, the sky is not falling. But just like we said last time, Austin had started all 3 of its MLS seasons on 6 points through 3 matches. So that means the awesome success they had last year, they also started that way in the bad year, the inaugural year. So like we're not saying it's not going to be a struggle, but holy cow, man. Like, and if we win against Colorado this coming Saturday, we're on 9 points, which is better than our pace last year, which doesn't mean shit because it's still a small sample size. It's still only 15% of the season.
Facts. And I mean, if we go back to last year right now, correct me if I am wrong, Seattle in CONCACAF last year.
Yes, they won it.
Very, very slow start to the season.
Correct.
The MLS season.
Dude, they missed the playoffs for the first time in their history. Again,
Exactly.
we said that too, right? It could be if you're not going to win CCL, you want to lose early.
Absolutely. So this is behind us now. CCL is behind us. It's over. We're moving forward. We're right. We're fine. A very not good Colorado team is coming to the Fortress.
Yeah.
They're coming down to the heat. They're getting next to sea level. So, yeah, I mean, shit, man, it's easy to be a happy-go-lucky kind of person when everything's going good, but you get to see what people's true colors are when the chips are down a bit.
All right, well, in the middle of our perspective diatribe, the internet went out here, so I think that's a message from the soccer gods that's enough perspective for one episode. We're already over an hour. Trying to make ourselves feel better here. Let's touch on some of the MLS results from match day 4 and then get out of here. We mentioned earlier, right? St. Louis, 4-0. We kind of thought their Cinderella story might come to an end against San Jose this week, and very much not.
No.
4-0 on top of the table. Atlanta on the other side, on a rampage. Thiago Almada, best ball MVP, league MVP at this point, right? Again, we're 12% of the way through the season, but holy hell has that big guy been good.
They have looked awesome. Been fortunate enough to catch a couple, halves of the Atlanta team there, and they look fun. They look good, and I'm very glad that I drafted them in our team
points draft.
Whatever the fuck we called that one.
Yeah, the points draft.
The points draft. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I'm really eyeing Yorgos Giacomakis for our summer transfer window. But we'll leave best ball. Yes, I am Yorgos. Cincy and Chicago, wild draw there, 3-3. Notable because this is the first time FC Cincinnati has avoided defeat in a match that they trailed by multiple goals. They were previously 0-49.
Holy cow.
So they're progressing. It's still a bad draw, I think, against that Chicago team. But the fact that they pulled out a point, now sitting on 8 points through 4 matches, that is good for 4th in the Shield standings. So not the worst thing there for Cincy. Not good for our bets, though. Montreal beats Philly at the death. Philly gets the lead, gets a red card, gives up 2 to lose 3-2. But again, maybe just sneaking in a little bit more perspective. Philly also sitting on 6 points through 4 games. I don't think that their fans are trying to tear everything down.
Philly fans. They don't need a lot of reason to tear shit down.
You're right. Charlotte FC on the board with their first win. So good to see Charlotte, who, we're sitting on 0 points and a whole lot of misery, just judging by what our friends at Top Bin 90 have been posting on Twitter over the last couple of weeks. Dallas does take down Sporting KC in comeback fashion. Wild performance from Martin Paas. I don't know if you saw the double PK save that he had. Yeah, saves the first from Agata. Gets called back because he came off his line like by a centimeter, and then he blocks Eric Tommy's shot next. So kept Dallas in it. They get the 3 points there, big 3 points. And then, of course, Minnesota taking down Colorado on the road, 7 points in 3 games without Reynoso. So a hot start for the shorthanded Loons. And that Colorado team, again, we will be back Wednesday to preview the Austin and Colorado match. Colorado, no better time for them to be coming to Austin when we need a result. They are last, 29th place, sitting on 1 point in the Shield standings, 1 goal for, 7 goals against. Bring them on. we need a bonus game right about now.
We need a 4-0 win.
Yeah, something like that. So I guess we'll talk about Colorado on Wednesday. We'll talk about the shorthanded Austin lineup that we can expect. Looking forward to that one. We'll have best ball update. We'll have MLS news. We'll have our betting picks, which, goddamn, I hope we turn it around here soon because another tough week for us there. Anything else you want to add, Ian, before we get out of here on episode 39?
No, sir. Get your pets spayed and neutered.
All right. We'll have to come up with some sort of Ian Barker nickname for next week or something like that. Maybe Drew Carey. I apologize for that, everybody. If you've got 5 seconds to block that out of your mind and rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, and, we brought back the video for this episode, heavily edited with our internet issues. You can subscribe to the channel, help us grow the podcast. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, help us battle the YouTube overlords. Atone for your sins by hitting that thumbs up button on this video. With that, we appreciate you rocking with us here on the North End Pod. Like we said, back Wednesday, previewing the Colorado match. Until then, he's E. I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.